Hello, my friends, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today, it's honey soy pork bites with a mash you've likely never tried, so stay to the end. We start with olive oil in the skillet. Now a knob of butter joins the oil, and I let it melt down evenly across the pan. The two work as a team here, since the butter brings the flavor while the oil keeps that butter from burning over the heat. I'm taking the pork and patting away all of the moisture with a paper towel, on every side of it. A dry surface is the whole secret to proper browning, because wet meat just steams away in the pan instead of searing. Now I'm cutting the pork into cubes, keeping them about the same size so they cook at one pace. Pork like this was always a treat when I was growing up, the kind of supper that meant something good had happened that week. So tell me in the comments, what was the special dinner in your family? The one dish that told you it was a celebration even before anyone said a word. Was it a roast? Fried chicken? Something your mother only made a few times a year? I would truly love to read your memories down below. With my kitchen tongs, I'm laying the pork cubes into the skillet one by one, spreading them out so each piece gets its own spot of hot metal, because crowded meat cools the whole skillet down and steams instead of browning the way it should for this dish. A sprinkle of Himalayan salt goes over the pork, right there in the pan, so it seasons the surface of the meat just as that first crust is starting to form underneath. Now I'm grinding black peppercorns over the meat and covering the skillet with a mesh screen, which keeps the stovetop clean while the steam still escapes freely. The pork will fry for about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, a pot goes onto the heat, and I'm pouring in plenty of water for our potatoes to boil away in later. A good spoonful of Himalayan salt goes into the water, and I stir it all around until it dissolves completely, since potatoes only take seasoning in while they boil away, and never once they have already cooked through. Now I'm cutting the potatoes into chunks, all roughly the same size, so every piece finishes cooking at the very same moment. We've got quite a generous pile of them today, because these potatoes are carrying half of this dish on their shoulders, and you'll see exactly why a bit later on. The potatoes go into the pot, and I cover it up with the lid. They'll need about 20 minutes in there. Back to the skillet. I'm lifting the screen and turning the pork cubes over with the tongs, piece by piece, giving each and every one its turn in order. Just look at that browning on the first side. That's exactly what drying the meat with the towel bought us. A little more Himalayan salt goes right over the freshly turned side of the pork cubes, sizzling away in the pan. And then some freshly ground black pepper goes over them too, straight from the whole peppercorns, exactly the way it always goes here in this kitchen. The pork is browned on all sides now, so I'm lifting the cubes out of the skillet and setting them aside on a plate for a while. They'll be back very soon, just as soon as the flavorful base of our sauce is ready, and waiting for them right there in the pan. Now I'm chopping an onion, nice and fine. My mother used to say that almost every good dinner in the world starts with someone chopping an onion. And the older I get, the more I believe she was right about that, since I can hardly name a single savory dish in my old recipe notebook that doesn't begin exactly this way, with a worn cutting board, a sharp knife, and a few honest tears along the way, which somehow only makes the dinner taste better in the end. The onion goes into the skillet, right into all those browned bits the pork left behind for us, and I stir it through the pan. As it softens in the heat, the onion will lift all of that browned flavor up off the bottom of the pan and carry it straight into our sauce, so not one bit of it ever goes to waste. Now for the garlic, and I'm grating it on the fine side of the grater. Yes, that's a generous pile once again, and today it has a truly special job to do, because garlic, honey, and soy sauce are one of the truly great trios of the kitchen, and the garlic is exactly what keeps the sauce from tipping over into being too sweet for its own good. So every last bit of this fragrant pile is earning its place in the pan tonight. The garlic goes into the skillet, and I stir it through the softened onion. Give it just a short moment here, before anything else goes into the pan, since garlic cooks far faster than onion does, and it turns bitter on you the very second it slips past that golden color. Now the browned pork goes back into the skillet, along with every drop of the juices left behind on the plate. In goes a tablespoon of honey, and I stir it through the meat until every cube gets its share of the sweetness. My grandfather kept a few beehives out behind his house, and to this very day, the smell of honey warming and turning fragrant in a pan takes me straight back to his kitchen table. So this one little spoonful always feels like a small hello from him sent across all those years. Now a quarter cup of soy sauce goes in, and I keep stirring as it bubbles up around the pork. Watch how the honey and the soy slowly thicken together into a dark glaze that clings to every single cube in the pan. The pork will simmer away in the sauce for about 10 more minutes, drinking all of that sweet and salty goodness in as it goes. The potatoes are finally done, so they go straight into the potato ricer while they're still steaming hot from the pot. I'm pressing the boiled potatoes through down into a glass bowl, and just look at those fine, snowy strands falling right in. A ricer keeps the mash light and fluffy every single time, because it never overworks the potato into glue the way hard mashing so often can when you put real muscle into it. Half a cup of milk goes straight into the hot potatoes right away. And then a dusting of dried oregano goes over the top of the bowl. Now a second skillet goes onto the heat with a good pour of olive oil, because our mash is getting some very good company today, exactly the kind I promised you at the start. I'm slicing another onion, into half rings this time. 2 onions in one dish might well sound like a lot at first, but each one plays its own separate part here, since the first one melted away into the sauce for the pork, while this one will keep its shape and bring a sweet bite to the potatoes, And nobody has ever once complained about that at my table. And I doubt anybody ever will. The onion goes into the skillet, and I stir it around through the warm oil. These vegetables will take about 10 minutes altogether on the stove, so there's truly no rush at all here. Just steady heat and a little stir every now and then, while they slowly soften, sweeten, and pick up color at the edges. Now I'm slicing a few mushrooms, and just listen to that fresh little squeak under the knife as I go. That's exactly how you know they're good ones. If white mushrooms are in your store this week, cremini step in beautifully here instead, and they bring a slightly deeper flavor that this whole dish takes to very well. So simply use whichever ones look best on the day you happen to be shopping. The mushrooms join the onion in the skillet, and I stir everything together well. They'll shrink down quite a bit as their water cooks away in the pan, and that is exactly when their flavor turns deep and concentrated. So don't let the shrinking worry you one bit. A sprinkle of Himalayan salt goes over the vegetables in the pan. And then some freshly ground black pepper goes right over the pan as well. Now a good dusting of garlic powder, and I stir it through the vegetables in the pan. Garlic powder is the right call here rather than fresh, since fresh garlic would fight with the mushrooms for attention in the finished dish, while the powder settles quietly over everything in the skillet and ties all the vegetables together into one warm and rounded flavor. And here comes the twist I promised you at the start. The fried vegetables go straight into the bowl with the mashed potatoes, and I fold everything together until they run all through it. Plain mash is lovely on its own, but mash with sweet onion and mushrooms hiding through it is the kind of side dish that people remember and ask you about long after the dinner is over. Now I'm chopping a fresh bunch of parsley, nice and fine. Tell me honestly in the comments, did your family ever stir anything special into their mashed potatoes, fried onion, cracklings, cheese, maybe an egg the way some grandmothers always did? Every house seems to have its own answer to this question, passed along quietly from one kitchen to the next. And I do so love collecting those little secrets. So please share yours down below for all of us to try. The chopped parsley goes into the bowl, and I fold it all the way through the mash, where all of that fresh green looks so lovely scattered against the pale potatoes, and its clean garden taste lifts the whole rich bowl at the very same time. Now I'm cutting up some fresh green onion. This is the finishing touch for our pork, and it's not just there for looks, because green onion brings a sharp note of freshness that cuts right through the sweet glaze on the meat, so every bite lands balanced instead of heavy, and that one little contrast is exactly what keeps everyone coming back to the pan for just one more piece. The chopped green onion goes right over the pork in the skillet, and the meat is ready. Onto the plate goes all of the pork, glazed and glistening in that dark sauce, with the green onions scattered brightly over the top of it. And then a generous scoop of our vegetable mash goes right there beside it on the plate. Just look at this plate for a moment. Glossy honey soy pork, mash flecked with mushrooms and onion, all of it steaming away and ready to go to the table. The first bite, sweet, savory, tender, all a supper should be. Subscribe, hit like, see you next time.